In the silent depths of the ghostly dragon cave, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. A deadly decision had been made. Giaming had to die. Ling Han and his two companions, Hu Niu and Helian Shun Shui, did not hesitate once the plan was set. Every moment counted. The enemy was not a group that could be taken lightly. Shu Ran and the others were towering prodigies of the heaven tier, warriors who stood at the summit of the younger generation. If they were given even a moment to react and unite their strength, killing Giaming would become nearly impossible. After all, Ling Han possessed the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation as his hidden trump card. If he had such a terrifying weapon in reserve, who could say the other five didn't possess something just as dangerous? But powerful killing weapons always required time to activate. That brief window was the only chance. Shu Ran's group had chosen this location for their ambush precisely because they needed time to summon their ultimate techniques. Yet fate had twisted their expectations. They could never have imagined that Ling Han possessed a treasure like the Black Tower, a divine relic capable of hiding living beings within it. Small as a grain of mustard seed, it concealed their presence perfectly, evading even the divine senses of the heaven tier elites waiting in ambush. And so, when the moment arrived, move! 3 figures suddenly burst into existence like lightning striking from empty air. Ling Han, Hu Niu, and Helian Shun Shui surged forward in a single decisive charge. Their target was clear: Giaming. The 4 ambushers were stunned. What? Shock rippled through Shu Ran and his companions. They had been waiting in perfect formation, divine senses stretched across the battlefield like an invisible web. Yet somehow these 3 had appeared from nothing. That instant of disbelief cost them dearly. Before the ambushers could fully react, Ling Han's trio had already closed the distance. Steel sang. Ling Han's sword flashed from its sheath like a streak of moonlight. Hu Niu leapt forward with feral excitement, her claws gleaming with killing intent. Beside them, Helian Shun Shui gathered dragon chi into her fist. Her body arts surged with immense force, the blood of the true dragon roaring through her veins. When her punch descended, it carried the crushing might of a mountain. "You think you can kill me?" Giaming roared in fury, reacting with astonishing speed despite the sudden attack. There was no time to summon treasures or divine weapons. In that desperate instant, he could only rely on his own body. Origin power erupted through his limbs as he raised his fists to defend. But Hu Niu was faster. Lightning seemed slow compared to her movements. With a casual sweep of her hand, Gila, her claws sliced across Giaming's body, tearing open a deep wound. Blood splashed through the air. Even his body, hardened to rival level 9 precious metal, was unable to resist her terrifying strength. Before he could recover, Helian Shun Shui arrived. She too had mastered the thunderclap 9th heaven. Her speed was even greater than Ling Han's. Her fist struck like a thunderbolt descending from the heavens. Pooh! Giaming spat out blood violently as the force smashed into him. Helian Shun Shui's strength already surpassed his own, and when combined with the ancient might of the true dragon bloodline, her battle prowess was overwhelming. His body staggered. Yet Giaming truly lived up to his reputation as a peerless prodigy. His physique was extraordinarily tough. Though ambushed by 2 terrifying blows, he refused to fall. The flexible resilience of his body absorbed and dispersed much of the damage. Even so, his face had turned ghostly pale. And then Ling Han arrived, the sword in his hand aimed straight for Giaming's back. "Ling Han, you cannot kill me!" Giaming shouted through gritted teeth. Shu Ran and the others were already rushing toward them. If he could endure this final strike, the battle would instantly reverse. 5 heaven tier elites against 3. It would be Ling Han's group who faced annihilation. And hidden among their ranks was a terrifying killing weapon originally meant for the monsters of the ghostly dragon cave. Killing Ling Han with it would be effortless. With a roar, Giaming thrust out both arms. He intended to catch Ling Han's sword with his bare hands. Only someone with a body like his would dare such madness. The blade in Ling Han's grip was the Revere Life Sword, one of the most feared killing weapons in existence. Even the sword aura alone could shred flesh and bone like paper. But Giaming believed his physique could stop it. Ling Han's eyes were calm. His heart was still as a deep lake. The sword moved forward. Only pure sword surged through the air. Giaming succeeded in grabbing the blade, but stopping it was another matter entirely. His 10 fingers were sliced apart like tofu. Blood burst outward as severed digits scattered across the ground. The sword did not slow. Its tip drove straight into Giaming's heart. The Revere Life Sword was known as the world's ultimate killing blade. Once it pierced the body, survival was impossible. Violent sword energy exploded inside Giaming's chest. Blood erupted from his mouth as disbelief filled his eyes. How? How could someone like him fall to Ling Han? The sword's power pushed his body backward. His strength vanished like sand slipping through open fingers. Then, Giaming collapsed onto the ground. A legendary prodigy whose name once shone upon the stone of martial arts had died without even releasing a single ultimate technique. Ling Han acted immediately. With a casual motion, he pulled Giaming's corpse into the Black Tower. A man like Giaming surely carried a spatial spirit tool filled with treasures. Ling Han had no time to search now, but letting such wealth go to waste would be foolish. At that moment, Xu Ran and the others finally arrived. Though caught off guard, these were still the supreme geniuses of their era. Their reaction speed alone was extraordinary. Ling Han burst into laughter. With a swift turn, he unleashed another strike. The desolate hell's sword technique erupted. This technique excelled in defense. Countless sword lights blossomed into existence, weaving together into a radiant barrier that shielded Ling Han, Hellion Shun Shui, and who knew? Ding! 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 The battlefield rang with the sound of steel colliding. Both sides were forced backward as the first clash ended. Ling Han's ambush had succeeded. But now the battlefield had returned to balance. 4 Heaven-tier elites stood against 3. Each of them was a monster among monsters. Donglinger stared at Ling Han, fury blazing within her eyes. "You actually killed Giaming?" Ling Han merely shrugged with a faint smile. "You say that as if you were waiting here to welcome me. You set the ambush first. Why shouldn't I return the favor?" Nearby, the Son of Lightning frowned deeply. "How did you evade our divine senses?" His voice carried genuine unease. One person escaping detection would already be strange, but all 3 of them had vanished completely from their perception before suddenly appearing to deliver a fatal strike. If Ling Han could repeat such a trick, the thought was chilling. Xu Ran and the others wore similarly grave expressions. Ling Han smiled faintly. "Why should I tell you?" The Son of Lightning snorted in irritation. Of course, Ling Han would never reveal such a secret. Yet the uncertainty gnawed at his mind like poison. Xu Ran suddenly spoke, his gaze sharp. "Have you already formed Sword Heart?" He continued slowly. "Just now I used my Saber Heart to influence you. If you had not reached the same level with the sword, your attack would never have remained so precise." Ling Han chuckled. "Perhaps my sword was originally off target, and your influence helped guide it." Xu Ran's expression darkened. He did not believe a word of it. He himself had comprehended Saber Heart only through constant exposure to the absolute saber and its ancient saber intent. Such enlightenment was nearly impossible without extraordinary resources. The Small Sword Emperor possessed similar advantages through the mid-of-sword spring of the Heaven Sword sect. Yet Ling Han? He came from the lower realm, and still he stood on the threshold of Sword Heart, or perhaps had already grasped it. Their realization was terrifying. Suddenly the Small Sword Emperor's eyes widened. "I understand," his voice rang out. "You possess a spatial divine tool." "What?" Xu Ran and the others were shocked. Even in the immortal realm, such treasures were almost mythical. A divine artifact capable of storing living beings could only be forged by the supreme elites who stood at the very pinnacle of existence. Whenever such a treasure appeared, rivers of blood followed. Even the 5 great sects of the immortal realm did not possess one. Yet now, such a divine treasure had appeared in the hands of a cultivator from the lower realm. Their minds raced. Moments earlier, Ling Han had casually stored Giaming's body away. Even though Giaming possessed a spatial spirit tool, everyone knew that spatial artifacts could not contain other spatial artifacts. There was only one explanation. Ling Han held a spatial divine tool. Understanding dawned instantly. Greed ignited. The eyes of Xu Ran, the Son of Lightning, Donglinger, and the Small Sword Emperor burned with blazing desire. They stared at Ling Han as though he were the most precious divine herb in the world. In the boundless lands of the mortal realm, treasures were plentiful. Yet some artifacts existed that even the immortal realm would covet. Among them were spatial divine tools. Such objects were not merely rare, they were legends that stirred the greed of every cultivator who heard their name. Even the mightiest sects of the mortal realm could not help but tremble with desire at the thought of possessing one. For if such a treasure were brought into the immortal realm one day, it could be exchanged for unimaginable resources, wealth so vast that even seasoned immortals might lose their composure. And now, such a treasure stood before them. The air turned heavy with killing intent. Shu Ran and the others stared at Ling Han, their eyes blazing with cold determination. Whether for revenge or for the sake of the spatial divine tool, there was only one conclusion. Ling Han must die. The four exchanged glances. A silent agreement passed between them like lightning. "We attack with everything we have?" Someone said coldly. How the treasure would be divided could be decided later. First, the obstacle before them had to be removed. If Ling Han lived, nothing else mattered. Shu Ran was the first to move. With a sharp flick of his wrist, the absolute saber appeared in his grasp. The moment the weapon emerged, a violent aura rippled outward like a storm awakening from slumber. Beside him, the Son of Lightning let out a fierce laugh. From his spatial ring he pulled forth a colossal axe, its blade massive enough to dwarf his own body. The weapon seemed almost too large for any ordinary cultivator to wield, yet in his hands it moved with terrifying ease. The instant it was raised, a brutal, destructive aura erupted across the battlefield. Even the surrounding winds seemed to recoil. Ling Han narrowed his eyes. The feeling the axe gave him was no weaker than the absolute saber. Inwardly, he could not help but grow serious. The wealth of the 5 great sects was truly staggering. A single absolute saber alone possessed strength rivaling 10 stars of the shattering void tier. And now another weapon of comparable might had appeared. With treasures like these in hand, Shu Ran's group had reason to fear no one, not even powerful figures like Shan Yutong. Of course, that was only if they could activate their weapons in time. If not, they would meet the same fate as Giaming. Ling Han's gaze flickered toward the 2 terrifying weapons. 2 top-grade spirit tools, troublesome. In his hand, the Revere Life Sword responded instantly. Ancient patterns lit along the blade as if the weapon itself had awakened from slumber. It had sensed the danger emanating from the absolute saber and the giant axe. The legendary killing sword pulsed with murderous intent. Ling Han smiled faintly. "That axe," he said calmly, "is quite remarkable." The Son of Lightning's grin widened. "Of course it is," he replied proudly. "This weapon is an imitation of the mountain and river axe." Ling Han's brows lifted slightly. Imitation? For a moment, even he was stunned. A weapon with such overwhelming power was merely a replica? Then what kind of monstrous artifact must the true mountain and river axe be? The Son of Lightning burst into laughter. "Ling Han, didn't you say you wished to establish your own empire and split open the heavens?" he mocked. "Then let me tell you something." His eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "Only the real mountain and river axe can split open the skies. Other than a pseudo-divine tool, what weapon could possibly tear apart this world's heavens?" Ling Han chuckled softly. "Oh?" he said. "Then please, enlighten me." Shu Ran snorted coldly. "The mountain and river axe was forged from the very source energy and barrier energy of this realm," he said. "Do you understand what that means?" His voice dropped, filled with killing intent. "We're telling you this because you're already a dead man." Nearby, Donglinger and the small sword emperor each held a tightly rolled scroll, decrees of shattering void tier elites. Those were their final trump cards. But if the absolute saber and the imitation mountain and river axe were enough to kill Ling Han, there would be no reason to waste those priceless decrees. After all, they had come here for another purpose as well, the true dragon's tooth. The war against the Purple Moon Empire had already reached a delicate balance. Every powerful treasure removed from the battlefield could influence the outcome of the war. Yet the sects had still entrusted them with these weapons. That alone showed how important this mission truly was. Ling Han's smile remained relaxed. "So there really exists such a weapon," he mused softly. "A tool forged from the source energy of an entire realm." His eyes gleamed with curiosity. "I'd very much like to see the real mountain and river axe one day." "You won't have the chance," Shu Ran replied coldly. At that moment, both the absolute saber and the mountain and river axe awakened completely, A horrifying wave of power surged outward. These were not ordinary spirit tools. Among level 10 spirit tools, they stood at the very peak. Artifacts capable of slaughtering mid and even high-level, shattering void tier elites. If Ling Han's Demon Birth Sword faced them again, it would likely be shattered within a few exchanges. In fact, during Ling Han's earlier clash with Shu Ran, the Demon Birth Sword had already suffered numerous dents. Another prolonged battle would almost certainly destroy it. And if the sword were broken, its martial spirit would die with it. It would no longer be a level 10 spirit tool, only a broken weapon. But the Revere Life Sword was different. It shone brilliantly, releasing a chilling killing aura. This was the world's #1 killing sword. Its reputation was not empty boasting. Yet there was one problem. Ling Han had only one sword. His enemies had 2 supreme killing weapons. Without hesitation, Ling Han activated the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation. The ground trembled. White mist surged upward as an enormous ice dragon formed, roaring toward the heavens. But even with the formation active, Ling Han was still at a disadvantage. Shu Ran's group now wielded the equivalent battle strength of 4 shattering void tier elites. Still, Ling Han did not retreat. He wanted to see the true might of that axe. Perhaps from the imitation, he could deduce the strength of the real mountain and river axe. Shu Ran raised the absolute saber. "I'll block the sword," he said. "You handle the attack." "Understood." The Son of Lightning roared in excitement. He charged forward, raising the mountain and river axe high above his head. Ding! The absolute saber collided with the Revere Life Sword. A clear metallic clash rang across the battlefield. Blinding light exploded outward, rippling through the sky as if space itself were about to crack apart. These 2 legendary weapons had been rivals for ages. Neither could easily suppress the other. But in that instant, the Son of Lightning moved, his axe descended, the ice dragon roared forward to intercept. Shua! With a single swing, the ice dragon was split cleanly in half, its body dissolved into mist instantly. Within the formation, white fog began gathering again to reform the dragon, but even such a powerful formation required a brief moment to regenerate. That moment was deadly. The power of the axe was terrifying. The ice dragon possessed battle strength equal to 7 stars of the shattering void tier, yet it could not withstand even a single strike. This was not because the Son of Lightning was overwhelmingly strong, it was because the axe itself was monstrous. The Son of Lightning burst into triumphant laughter. He pulled the axe back and charged forward once more. The massive blade rose high above Ling Han. Cold, killing intent filled his eyes. "One strike, and your soul will shatter," he sneered. "Die." Ling Han sighed quietly in his heart. Even as an imitation, the mountain and river axe possessed power equivalent to at least 10 stars of the shattering void tier. Otherwise, it could never have cleaved the ice dragon so effortlessly. Then what about the real weapon? 15 stars? Perhaps even 20? The resources of the 5 great sects were truly terrifying, and these weapons were probably not even their final trump cards. Most likely they were waiting for the moment Ma Duobao made his move, so they could crush the ancient empire in one decisive strike. The thought flashed through Ling Han's mind. Then he dismissed it. He briefly considered drawing power from the Black Tower. With that power, defeating Shu Ran and the others would be trivial. But only if they didn't possess treasures like the Absolute Saber and Mountain and River Axe, and that assumption was clearly impossible. Even empowered, he might still be unable to overcome such weapons. Ling Han smiled faintly. "I'm done playing with you." He raised both hands. In an instant, Hu Nu vanished, Heilun Shui vanished. The Revere Life Sword disappeared. Even the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation vanished. And Ling Han himself disappeared as well. Everything was swallowed into the Black Tower. In the blink of an eye, they were gone. The battlefield fell silent. Shu Ran and the others immediately tensed. "Be careful." Their expressions turned extremely cautious. They had seen this trick before. It was exactly how Giaming had died. Ling Han had vanished, only to suddenly reappear and strike. The same tactic could be used again, and if they relax for even a moment, they might suffer the same fate. "Search the area," someone shouted. "If it's a spatial divine tool, it must have a physical form." "Destroy everything." Madness filled their eyes. The absolute saber and mountain and river axe descended again and again, blasting the earth apart. Mountains shattered, the ground exploded, stone and soil were reduced to nothing, not even dust remained, but destroying the surroundings was meaningless. A divine tool could not be destroyed so easily. If they could just find it, they would seal it with a shattering void decree and bring it back to the five great sects. There, the ultimate experts of the sects would surely force the treasure open. And when that happened, Ling Han and everyone inside would be dragged out by force. Yet no matter how violently they searched, no matter how thoroughly they destroyed the battlefield, they could not find even the slightest trace of the hidden divine tool.